Cathedral to the reflection for today, Friday the 19th of February. Here we are in the early days of the season of Lent, and my name's Robert Titley. I'm the Canon Treasurer. I begin by saying happy birthday. Hannah and Ros, two colleagues of ours in the Cathedral staff, are celebrating birthdays this week, and indeed earlier this week I myself was doing the same thing. So birthdays are the thing that have got me musing as I've been thinking about what to talk about today. Now, I'm old school enough to have a morning paper delivered each day, and one of the parts of the paper I go to usually over breakfast is the birthdays column. And as I look at the notable people whose birthday falls on that day, I'm sometimes surprised to see a figure cemented in my memory as forever young, who turns out no longer to be that young anymore. Peter Purvis, for instance, the boyish presenter of the wonderful children's programme Blue Peter that I watched in the 60s and 70s, he turned 82 last week. How did that happen? So the birthday column is a reminder of our mortality. And with it comes the knowledge, inevitable knowledge in the case of fairly famous people, that the name that you see in the birthday column year by year will one day appear in the obituary section next door. Mortality is one of the things that we're invited to reflect upon during this season of Lent, when we remember Jesus in the wilderness for 40 days, fasting and praying. And as we're invited to see there as a request, an invitation for us to spend these days of Lent seeking to live a bit more deeply. Remember that you are dust, say the words in the Ash Wednesday service that begins Lent. Remember that you are dust, and to dust you shall return. The birthday column also provokes rather more jolly thoughts in me. I imagine, for instance, how it would be if all the people whose birthdays are listed that day held a joint birthday party. This, of course, would need to wait until the end of COVID restrictions. So, for instance, on my birthday, we would have a quite fantastic party. There would be people you'd love to get into conversation with. The cricketing legend from the West Indies, Desmond Haynes, the former MP and Minister Claire Short, a remarkable career in public service. We'd be sure of having laughs, because also there would be Matt Groening, one of the joint creators of the Simpsons cartoon. Music would come from Mikey Craig of Culture Club, and if we had any party games, the charades round would no doubt be dominated by the huge acting talents of Claire Bloom and Jane Seymour. And there'd be other people there who would be great value too. A physiologist, Dame Frances Ashcroft, Leslie Griffiths, former president of the Conference of the Methodist Church, and Polly Neat, the director of Shelter, a charity devoted to ending homelessness and bad housing in Britain. Each day, the birthdays column gives a snapshot of humanity in all its glorious talent. And these are just the famous ones. When my birthday comes around, I always think of Sheila, my sister. We share the same birthday, though we are 9 years apart in age. Sheila, who always had a talent for figures, which never quite made their way to me. It's encouraging, then, to see that apparently random list of names day by day in the huge problems that we face as a species on this planet, the pandemic and its fallout, the even greater challenge of climate breakdown. Well, as we try to grapple with these things, we certainly don't lack for talent, and that is encouraging. The psalm writer says in Psalm 139, in praying to God, I praise you that I am fearfully and wonderfully made. And so we are. We as a species reflect the loving creativity of God. And indeed, we are made in the image of God. And one of the ways in which we are made in God's image is in the gifts and the talents that we have, which enable us to share in God's creative work, whether that's creating a new vaccine or just creating laughter in the people we find ourselves among. Talent, however, is not enough. Talents can be wasted. They can be used sincerely but unwisely. Talents can be used very successfully in the service of wickedness. And again, you only need to look at the birthdays column or the obituaries section to see from time to time a life that was full of talent but which was wrecked, or the life of someone very successfully devoting their gifts to ends that are selfish or even wicked. That is why the God that Jesus makes known to us is not only a creator God, but our Redeemer. I need redeeming. I need to be rescued from myself sometimes. I need to be turned around and redirected. And Lent is a season for thinking about those things too. The qualities that go to waste, the ways in which life bends you and me out of shape. It's a season to say to God, help please and straighten me out so that your image in which I was created might be restored and refreshed and renewed in me. And if your reaction to that is, well, actually, I don't need straightening out, thank you very much, well, you may be right, or it's possible that you've just not been paying attention. Remember that you are dust, and to dust you shall return. Yes, we are dust, you and I. In two senses at least, we're mortal, and we also have a tendency to make life turn to dust in one way or another. So yes, we are dust, but in the words of the title of a very good book you might like to read during Lent, we are dust that dreams of glory. If you feel led to give some time to being with God, thinking about these things during the weeks of Lent that lie in front of us, well, there are various ways you can do that. You can tune into the services that are live streamed from the Cathedral here in Salisbury. You can also go to the Church of England's website and click on the button that says Daily Prayer. There are lots of resources there to enable you to join with countless others in spending time with the scriptures and offering your prayers and in listening to God. If you're minded to do that this evening, you will find the service of evening prayer, and it includes these words addressed to God. Open our eyes to acknowledge your presence, that we may grow into your likeness from glory to glory. Blessed be God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Thank you for your time, and may God be with you. Goodbye.